Hello and welcome to Line Sniper Fight Night. I am your host, Dave Milhouse, and with me is MMA Lock of the Night, Manpreet Jhass. How we doing, buddy?
I'm great, dude. I'm happy to do another show with you. We did one last year, UFC 246, and now we got another one ahead of us. Very, very excited for it. We got some good fights, a lot of ones jumping in and out, but we'll cover that for you guys. But I'm happy to do it with you, Dave, as always.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure. I just got so excited I started screaming right after we did a volume check. So I'll tone it down a bit. We're gonna go through each fight. We're gonna go over some stats, our opinions. We are gonna go maybe through best fight odds, maybe find some little things we like some props or over unders and stuff. And we don't have to necessarily give concrete bets, but let's give the people our leans to the best of our ability. And let's start with the main event. Alistair Overeem, Alexander Volkov. Why don't you kick this one off for me? Welcome to Lion Sniper. Let's roll, buddy.
Let's do it. Yeah, no, I'm very much excited for this fight. It's a pivotal heavyweight fight, right? We got number 6 against number 7. We got Overeem on a bit of a run right now. Volkov obviously just went out there and finished Walt Harris. But in the fight before that, he goes out there and gets mollywopped by Overeem's now training partner, Curtis Blades. And I want to bring up Curtis Blades because he's very important in this fight, given the fact that Overeem, in his first 13 fights in the UFC leading up to that Curtis Blades fight, we only saw him complete 3 takedowns. And now since he's joined the Curtis Blades training camp, he's had 5 fights and he's completed 7 takedowns. So we're seeing a bit of an evolution now in terms of, where he's going out there and mixing in his MMA game rather than just focusing on his kickboxing, right? So I'm glad that we're seeing takedown Overeem, as I like to call him, going out there and doing some top control, getting some damage from on top. The line that I'm currently waiting for is like that plus 200 range. And I feel like as fight week rolls on, we're going to get closer to that. Are we going to hit plus 200? I'm not 100% sure, but I am liking Overeem as a dog here. A lot of people just want to discredit him, saying he has durability issues, he has chin issues. But in my opinion, the only guys to really put him out on the feet, striking wise, are 2 of the top 3 hitters in the heavyweight division. We got Rosenstrike, we got Ngannou, and Derek Lewis is the other one, but we haven't seen Overeem fight him yet, right? So I like Overeem. I think he mixes it to get it a little bit better. That 5-round experience is great for him too. We've seen Volkov in the 4th round before. We've seen him in the 5th round against Blades too. But another interesting part of this is we saw him put on close to 18 pounds in weight for his last fight against Walt Harris. So how that's going to affect him in a 5-round fight here against Overeem, I'm not 100% sure, but I think we see Overeem survive the first 2 rounds and then go on and pretty much put on a full display and win this fight via decision.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, except I do think the line will move the other way. I think the sharps will find value on Overeem, just like we have. There's a couple things going here. This is the only guy Volkov will ever fight that Volkov doesn't have more reach than. They both have an 80-inch reach. And Overeem, one of the most underrated strikers in UFC history. This guy's got a 64% accuracy with a 58% defense. That means 42% are getting through. I mean, that's ridiculous. I think that is number 1 or 2 in the entire UFC for people with 500 plus strike attempts, right? So his striking is very good. He stays out of danger, and I have no issues with his chin. Like you said, you and I would still be sleeping if either of those guys hit us like they hit Overeem. So sure. Yeah, no real concern there. But I do love what you mentioned about the takedowns. It's just going to be so big. It's going to allow him to control more of the fight, stay out of danger longer. Volkov's not really a power puncher. He's more of a volume guy. You can take the volume away. I don't mind the dog money at all here. But what I actually like is if you go over to best fight odds, you'll see the over-under, 2.5 rounds. These guys are decision machines. Where the hell does this line come from? 2.5 rounds. I know they're heavyweights. I get it. But I guess I don't get it. Isn't this fight definitely going to championship rounds?
Yeah, I think people are just buying into the fact that it's heavyweights. We saw Walt Harris finish his last fight. We saw, Overeem, finish his fight in the 5th round. But even before that against Walt Harris, he finished in the 2nd round. So again, heavyweights, people just like that 1.5, right? Why not go to that 2.5 mark and think that these guys are going to go to round 3? And I'm right there with you. I think there's some solid value there at that pick'em line, minus 115, minus 110 on the over 2.5.
Yeah. So, yeah, I might be sprinkling that. I haven't bet it yet. But, I mean, even Overeem by decision, plus 650, plus 700 on some sites. What in the hell is that? I mean, I might not get there, especially if he gets on top. I mean, that could be a fierce ground and pound. But value-wise, who are we kidding? So yeah, that's what we got. We definitely lean towards the Reem. Let's go over to Sandhagen and Edgar. This line is just ridiculous if you ask me, even though I think Sandhagen's gonna win. Um, but like what can we even say? That's a ridiculous line, right? It's disrespectful to Frankie and his entire career, even though I think his career's over and he's still clinging on for a paycheck. What do you think here?
Yeah, same thoughts right off the bat. You know, I mean, the line is just a little bit too wide here. Even though I think Corey Sandhagen wins, it's just too wide for me. Like we saw in Frankie's
It's
last fight against
crazy.
Pedro Munoz, he goes out there and puts, I think the most impressive part of his last fight with Munoz, though, was the fact that he took those shots that he did, because not a lot of people expected him to survive the shots that Pedro was throwing out there. We're talking about Pedro Munoz, who was just coming off I believe he knocked out Cody Garbrandt in his fight before that. So he had the steam coming, and a lot of people were just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this guy's going to go out there and knock out Edgar. But Edgar, if he's able to eat those shots, Pedro Munoz is just a walking punching bag. The guy doesn't have much skill when it comes to the striking game, other than just going out there and just throwing bombs and throwing a couple
Power,
leg kicks. Doesn't move well, right? That's the main issue. So Frankie Edgar, he still has his
steroids.
movement. Yes, right. So, yeah,
Sorry,
they get
go
popped
ahead.
back in the day. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Edgar, he moves well, throws combinations, pivots well off of his combinations as well too. So he's able to evade most of the power shots. He did eat some, which was very good for him in terms of showcasing that he can still take a shot. And Corey Sandhagen, not really a crazy power puncher, but I think his approach for the striking realm is going to cause Frankie some problems here. You're talking about a guy who's going to have a size and reach advantage. He moves as well as he does. He's such an unorthodox striker as well too, the way he approaches it. And lastly, the one caveat I have here in terms of why I think this line is a little bit too wide. Sandhagen's takedown defense leaves a little bit to be desired. And we know Frankie Edgar has a wrestling background as well. So maybe
Yeah.
that's something he goes out there and looks to exploit. I still lean Sandhagen here. However, I'm not even touching this fight. The line either way, it's just not intriguing enough to me for me to go out there and bet on old man Edgar and for Mr. Corey Sandhagen as well too. It's that minus 410. Why? I know we're degenerates, but we gotta have a little bit of decency and discipline when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, that's like everyone's going to have that in a parlay, and I think that's a horrible idea. Yeah, I do think he wins, but yeah, Frankie Edgar, like you said, he's got the wrestling. Maybe he can just squat on top of him long enough, and these judges are so horrible that you never know. Like, if Sandhagen doesn't wreck him, like, he might actually get away with just some top control. I watched Edgar fight Max Holloway live. That was my bachelor party, actually. And I'm not going to say he looked good, but to now be this big of a dog to Sandhagen is nuts. Sandhagen's getting a lot of credit for his last fight. He won in impressive fashion. Marlon's also a very good fighter, but yeah, this is too much for me. I can't respect the line. I couldn't touch either side though. So we're in full agreement there. And this is cool because I know we disagree on a lot of these fights. Actually, I watched your video on YouTube, and we're gonna be button heads on a few of these. So Marion Renault, Macy Chiasson, this was just canceled. Renault's got COVID. So that's that. Let's get on with it. Alexander Pantoja, Manel Cape here. This is the first one that stood out to me when I seen the odds for this. It's the first fight that I prioritized for tape study, and it's the first one I passed on very happily. I thought Pantoja was going to kill this guy. I've never even heard of him, and Pantoja was like minus 115. I was like, what the hell is this? But after further review, this dude throws some heat, man. I don't know. Like, Pantoja's at a high level. So these odds still seem a little wacky to me, but a lot of power on Cape, man. A lot of power. And, Pantoja gets in these firefights. I don't understand why. He's got enough skill to avoid them. And he's got a good chin, so I guess he just doesn't care. But that's funny. I mentioned the bachelor party fight with Frankie. Pantoja fought Davison Figueiredo that night. I had money on Pantoja. Whoops. I thought Davison's power might not be as real as it is, because that's really all he had going for him at the time. And he struggled with it. And this Cape dude looks like he hits really hard, like really hard. He's thick. He's a thick guy. I can't wait to see what he's got. This is a really exciting fight, if you ask me. But I don't know what to say. I feel like Pantoja feels like almost a sucker's bet. But how can you fade him at these odds? What do you think?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Cape. I mean, he's over there in the Risen scene. He's fought a couple UFC vets as well too, which is why a couple people are like pretty privy with what he brings to the table. But yeah, he leaves a lot to be desired in terms of the ground game. And that's where Pantoja truly exceeds when he's able to get the fight to the ground, uses black belt to his advantage. Like the main fight that I like to look at for this Cape guy is his fight against Lucas Sasaki, former UFC vet. I think that was probably one of his first fights over there in Risen, and he goes out there and just grapples Manel Cape to death pretty much, and was able to control that fight for the entire 15 minutes, and he gets the victory there. So I was happy to see that. But when it is on the feet, things get a little bit crazy, especially for Pantoja, who seems to slow down a little bit once the fight gets dragged past that round and a half mark. And he's a little bit slower to reacting to punches. Like if you watch his Askarov fight, like you see Askarov, mainly known to be a grappler, going out there and just jabbing his face off in that third round. So that was that was not a good look if you're trying to back Pantoja here. The spot that I like, to be honest, is the under 2.5. It's currently around minus 135. I'd like maybe closer to pick them, but even minus 135 is not too bad of a spot. I think this is either Pantoja early via sub, or Pantoja starts to gas a little bit later, and we see Cape go out there and knock this guy out. Like, he has a knockout victory over Kai Asakura. If you guys know who he is, sprung a huge upset over Kyoji Horiguchi as well, and that kind of put him on the map. Goes out there, knocks out, even has a decision victory over Cape, and then Cape comes back and knocks him out in their next fight. So the guy has the credentials. He trains at AKA Thailand under Mike Swick as well. That's a huge feather in his cap as well too. But yeah, this is a tough fight. Personally, if I'm going to put any money on it, it would probably be the under 2.5. Otherwise, I'm just sitting back, chilling, sipping on a beer, and enjoying the festivities that are about to ensue.
Yeah, I think it'll be a hell of a watch. I'm not interested at all in betting it. I mean, if Cape has got his defense, his takedown defense a little bit tighter, I mean, we don't really know what we're going to see, and I'm not sure about either guy's cardio. I mean, we've seen Pantoja fade. I haven't really seen Cape fade. We haven't really had as much ring time either. But yeah, I mean, there's some props that are interesting. You did mention submission. It's plus 265-ish for Pantoja. Cape knockout 240. Yeah, maybe a couple beers on each. Have some fun if you really want action. But yeah, I can't get behind putting any money on this fight, but I'm very intrigued. We're going to learn a lot about both guys in this fight. This is a perfect measuring stick. Cody Stamann and the captain of the all-name team, Asker. This sucks because I was really looking forward to Stamann's fight, which was just canceled and replaced yesterday with Asker. I didn't get to eat enough tape on him, but there's just no way. I mean, from what I've seen and know about him, I think Stamann's just levels and levels above. But yeah, the odds are too high for me to even consider diving into the tape tonight to care enough, I'm not interested in it. I'll just put it that way. You take it away. I know you got something for us here.
Yeah, no, I really like Cody Stamann, and I truly think he's going to close in that minus 800 range once fight time approaches. So even to get him at like minus 450, which is currently what we're seeing him at, I think he's a solid parlay piece. And I'm not usually on board with like parlaying guys that are at this, at that number. But this Asker guy truly seems like he has nothing for Cody Stamann in terms of like, he's not really a knockout puncher. He does a decent job in terms of maintaining his distance with his striking, but I don't think that's going to affect Cody Stamann much. He actually fought a guy that trained with Cody Stamann and actually kind of looks like Cody Stamann, which is hilarious. But the guy is just 3 inches shorter than Cody. So Asker was able to really maintain the distance and really make him pay for that reach disadvantage that his opponent was at. But Cody Stamann, just much more well-rounded, great wrestling, solid striking as well, to one of the better strikers from a wrestling background. So we've seen Cody Stamann really flesh out and become a great fighter. But yeah, I think he absolutely wipes the mat with this kid. I'm not 100% sure if he'll finish him. So I have a little bit of issues in terms of picking a prop here. But I think he just runs through this kid. Either he just controls him the entire time, outstrikes him, maybe knocks him out. We saw Asker get knocked out in his second last fight, but that was one where he just like threw caution to the wind, didn't really respect his opponent, it seemed like, and paid for it. The guy just kept landing an overhand right, and it eventually caught up to him and put out Asker. So I like Stamann. I think he's a solid parlay piece if there's another line on the card that you're looking at to put him with. I think he's probably the safest spot on this card. But again, the odds obviously indicate that. So if you have another spot that you like on the card, I think he's a solid parlay piece just to put a little bit of a cherry on top.
Okay, okay. Yeah, maybe I should dig back into that. I don't like the idea of Stamen over just about anybody at these odds because he's got T-Rex arms and he doesn't go for the kill enough. You know what I mean? Like you said, you don't know if you'll finish him. It's up to him. If he wants to, bite on his mouthpiece, he probably will kill this guy. But he seems pretty content just getting ahead and knowing he's ahead. And I like that. That's good fight IQ. You don't
My,
we're going to talk
my
about
issue
fight
though,
IQ in a couple more fights, I'm sure here. But yeah, Stamen, he's got good fight IQ, so he'll probably get ahead, stay ahead, and get ready for his next fight without getting a scratch would be the game plan I see here. Let's go on to fight of the night, in my opinion. Carlos Diego Ferreira, Benny Dariush. Boom. I don't even want to pick a side here. I'm going to lean with my man, Carlos Diego. I just think this guy's ready for prime time, but I'm not comfortable at all betting this one. Man, what a measuring stick. Benny, he takes too much damage, but he just never goes away. But I don't think you want to be taking damage against this guy who will then, probably take you down, control you. I don't know. If I had to make a pick, it's going to be Carlos Diego Ferreira. But I got, even saying that out loud kind of bothers me because that's just disrespectful to Benny, who's the better striker. But yeah, I don't know. You know what? Maybe I am nuts. See, this one's the hardest fight. It's going to be the fight of the night, though, for sure, right?
I'm right there with you, dude. I had a lot of trouble trying to break this fight down initially, but once I really started to dig into the tape, I'm on Team Fortis Fajeda here, and I say Fortis Fajeda because he changed camps after his fight against Benil Dariush the first time they fought. Went over there to Fortis MMA with Saif Sayud, who, in my opinion, is one of the most unheralded gems in terms of a MMA coach, and it completely changed the game of Fajeda. Like leading up to that fight with Dariush the first time, Fajeda was just self-taught. Like he was his own head coach pretty much. Then he realized he needed to make a change, jumped onto the Fortis train. Obviously gets knocked out in his next fight against Dustin Poirier, but you don't expect changes or developments in a fighter on just one fight to one fight. But since that fight, he hasn't been defeated. He's on a 6-fight winning streak, beating guys like Olivier Aubameyang, Jared Gordon, Rustam Khabilov. And the one to me that was most impressive was Mirbek Taisimov, who I truly believe that guy has a very high ceiling. We just don't see enough of him. And I think his inactivity is really killing him. But Fajeda went out there and beat him at his own game, went out there and outstruck him. And the main reason he outstruck him was because he stayed on the pressure, he stayed on the pace, and stayed in his face, not allowing Taisimov to truly get comfortable. And he just put it on him. And there's a statistic out there, out of the 3 fights that have gone to a decision since he's joined Fortis MMA, he's thrown over 280 strikes on average per fight. Like the guy's output has just developed insanely. Like whatever Saif Sayud's doing with him is absolutely working here. Now, his first fight with Benny was able to just go out there and just grapple him to death. Like he just wasn't able to get much off. And CDF is a really good black belt, but he just wasn't MMA ready at that time, in my opinion. Now, I believe he's MMA ready. Benil Dariush, he is 5 years younger than Diego Fajeda, which is interesting. But he's just taken so much damage in his last couple of fights that he just doesn't mind a firefight. Yeah. It's great for us fans, but if you're betting on his fights, you're just like, dude, reel it in. But this fight with CDF is going to be great, and I think that we'll see the pace and pressure of Diego Fajeda kind of wear on Dariush. And we've also seen, last thing I'll say about this fight, in fights where Dariush is really throwing caution to the wind and just going into firefights with these guys, he starts to suck wind a little bit. And yeah, he still comes out on the winning end sometimes. But if somebody like Diego Fajeda is able to eat those shots and still start chugging forward and moving forward, your cardio is going to get depleted pretty quickly. And I expect that to happen here. So yeah, I personally have a bet on Diego Ferreira. I took the shot at minus 120. I'm seeing it starting to close a little bit now. We're getting closer to pick 'em. I thought we'd see it stretch as the fight got closer, but I think people like them some Benil Dariush as well, especially considering the streak that he's on as well. But I think the improvements that we're seeing from Fajeda is going to be huge here. He's only 36, which some people might think that's a little bit too old at this point in time. But he started MMA late. And we're seeing him only get better on a fight-to-fight basis. I start to question fighters once they reach 38. So he still has a solid 2 years, in my opinion. So he looks in great shape. If you peek his IG, he looks amazing. I like Fajeda here. I think he goes out there, puts a pace on Dariush. Maybe finishes him late, but I'm going to go with the safe side and say decision.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to agree with you. People call Justin Gaethje the Homer Simpson of MMA. Benny Dariush is Homer Simpson. Okay. Uh, and he might be 5 years younger, but he's at least 20 years older in MMA years. Diego has hardly
Dang
taken a
it.
lick. He looks great, like you said. If you just eat healthy and work out, you don't really age. You age from getting your ass kicked. And man, does Benny ever take a beating? This guy has no regard for the scorecards. He doesn't give a fuck. He just bang, 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 eat it. And well, yeah, like you said, the pace that's going to be put on him, there's just no way Benny's ahead on the scorecards. So now, actually, I got to rethink this. This could very well be just a good opportunity to bet. We know Carlos Diego will be ahead, so you get a live bet hedge, free money, right?
Right there with
Glad we
you.
talked this one out. It sure feels like you can free roll after round 1.5, or once you get mid-second round. I mean, the odds are going to be so tilted. Yeah, good call there. We'll talk about this after. Maybe I'll make a bet on it. Now, this one I know we disagree on, so I'm going to let you try to sell me on the caveman Clay Guida, and then I'm going to tell you why I disagree.
Yeah, no. If you did listen to the entire breakdown there, I did end it by saying that it's my least confident prediction on this card. Like, it's very tough to go out there and back a guy like Clay Guida at this point in time, especially when you're talking about like such a skill discrepancy. Michael Johnson is probably one of the best strikers in the UFC, bar none. But he just has these moments of time where he's just like, oh, let me just flick the switch off for a second, and then I'm going to come back and hopefully I'm still in the fight. More often than not, though, he's out of the fight by that time, right? So, like the Thiago Moises fight, his last fight, goes out there, puts on a clinic in that first round, and then in the second round gets, what is it, ankle locked or whatever it was. Like Thiago Moises goes
Yeah.
out there, rolls for a heel hook of some sort and gets it. Like, how is a guy that as skilled as Michael Johnson, he's 19-16. That you don't see that, like guys with that type of skill level. Like, it's almost looking at BJ Penn's record at this point in time to be like, look, like how can you say that this guy's one of the greatest of all time when he has like a 500 record at this point? But it's you just got to look at it. You got to dig into it and see and hear what Michael Johnson. He could absolutely be winning this fight up until the point he's not. And so my spin here is I think that we'll see Guida get in on him, maybe land a couple takedowns, push him up against the cage, make it a dirty grinding fight. And as long as his chin holds up, and if this goes 15 minutes, I'd be more than happy to actually make a little bit of a play on Guida to win via decision. I do want to pull that up real quick to see what that line is. I actually didn't look at it myself. We got Guida by decision at plus 275. I'd want something a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I want more than
yeah,
that.
I'll probably pass on this, to be honest. But yeah, I can't trust Michael Johnson. If you can trust Michael Johnson, all praise to you. I can't. I'm not. I want none of this.
Okay, let me make a case for Michael Johnson here. This guy's lost 8 of his last 11 fights. We have to go back to like 2. And he's so talented, it's just laughable. But like, what a schedule, okay? He lost to Benny in 2015. That's tough. Nate Diaz, tough. Beat Poirier, lost to Khabib, lost to Gaethje. Elkins, meh. But he beat the shit out of Elkins, outlanded him 45-18 and got subbed. Like you said, he always gets caught. Then he beats Feely and Lobov. I mean, Feely's pretty good. Lobov's just tough. He got caught by Emmett. Who doesn't? Stevie Ray, I'm sure he'd like that one back. And then the ankle lock when he was up 27-1 in strikes. Like, that was like watching an N1 mixtape in round 1. 25 seconds into round 2, it's over. I just don't get how this guy blows it all the time. But, like, look at that strength of schedule. He's not exactly losing to bums. And if we look at Clay Guida, we're going to have to go back to like 2011 to find a quality opponent he's beat. You know what I mean? And that would be Anthony Pettis in 2011. Since then, he's beat guys I've never heard of and guys that have been cut, and BJ Penn in 2019. Otherwise, he's lost to every decent opponent, period. Clay Guida is tough. He comes forward. He's a total barbaric caveman. But watching Bobby Green tee off on him, outland him 85-23, that tells me everything I need to know. Bobby Green is a poor man's Michael Johnson, in my opinion. Bobby Green has never fought anybody like Michael Johnson has fought. Just look at the schedules. I mean, it's like 100-year-old Francisco Trinaldo took him out. I don't know, man. I don't have enough respect for Bobby Green. But that's not really fair. Like, the guy is getting better, but his schedule sucks. He hasn't beat anybody good. Everyone good beat him. He beat guys that got cut. He beat Clay Guida. He really took it to Lando Venata, who's fallen off a cliff, guy with all the talent and stuff in the world, and just I don't even know what to say. But Lando did get it together in his last fight, I guess. But I'm just looking at this strength of schedule, and it's like it's not even comparable. And then if we look at statistically, we want to bring up the stats here. Clay Guida lands 33% of his strikes against bums. I mean, MJ is fighting all stars, and I'm not going to say his accuracy is that great, but he does throw and land almost double. He's a sharp puncher, man. He's a really sharp puncher. Just a little bit of reach, a little bit taller, but his hand speed is like, it's unmeasurable compared to Clay. I don't get this, because if Michael Johnson was not just losing all his fights, and we do have to count that, but like this would be like minus 1,000. This is insane. Like realistically, let's say he did beat Moises in the fashion he was beating him. We're talking at least minus 500, right? Like without a question.
I'm right there with you. The only issue, though, in my opinion, is that statistics don't take into consideration fight IQ, right? And then that's
No,
the
of
knock
course
here
not.
on Michael Johnson, right? That's the main knock that a lot of people are like could be overlooking. Now, if this fight was like minus 150 for Michael Johnson, I'd be a little bit more intrigued. I don't want to part ways with my money at minus 200 or anything worse than that, right? So if we see some
Okay.
Clay Guida money come in, and this line gets pushed out a little bit further, I'd be down to risking on Michael Johnson at minus 150. But I'm not paying heavy chalk on a guy that continues to blow it. And also, you brought up the Bobby Green fight for Clay Guida, which you're right. Bobby Green goes out there and just puts a clinic on him on the feet. But the thing that I'd like to extract from that fight is the takedowns that Clay Guida was able to land. Didn't do the most control time and have the most top pressure there, but the fact that he was able
Mm-hmm.
to get him down leads me to believe that he should be able to get Michael Johnson down as well
Mm-hmm.
too, and should lead to him, pushing him up against the cage and accruing that control time. That's kind of my angle here again. But am I parting ways with my money to bet on Clay Guida? Nah, I need like
I
plus
hope
200
not.
ish on him too. So
So this is
yeah,
another one where
that's
we
where
can say possibly, if you wanted a nice angle, you could take Michael Johnson, then you can take Clay live. Michael Johnson
right.
starts hot. He's going to get ahead. Clay's not an extremely good finisher by any means. So I'd be shocked if you don't get a better line on Clay Guida live. That's just the way I'm looking at this. Is that fair?
Yeah, you're bang on. You're bang on. You're bang on.
Okay. Let's move on to slow Mike Rodriguez and Danilo Marquez. This is another one that got switched on us. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I favor slow Mike here. The odds are a little bit stretchy for me, but like, what are they really going to make this fight? I don't really see an edge anywhere, and I don't like it. So why don't you break it down, and then I'll try to counter something.
Yeah, no, I love Mike Rodriguez in this fight, and yeah, the line is a little bit wide, but that just shows you how much I don't rate Danilo Marquez. I do not think that guy is a good fighter at all. His fight over Khadisi Bragimov was pretty much to find out who's the shittiest in the UFC, and we found out who it was. It was Khadisi Bragimov. He was sent packing, and he's no longer in the UFC. Whereas Danilo Marquez, he was able to just take him down and grind him out. And I think he's going to have a lot more trouble dealing with the range, the striking, especially the striking of Rodriguez
Oh
here.
yeah.
Now, I originally parlayed him with Cody Stamen when Stamen was fighting Andre Ewell. Now I'm stuck with the minus 220 straight on Mike Rodriguez here, which I don't mind. I mean, at the end of the day, again, I
It's
don't mind it
relative.
because again, I don't think that Marquez is has anything for him, right? The guy's 35. He's coming into MMA late. He's mainly known as Shogun, who was the jiu-jitsu coach. When's the last time you've seen Shogun who will pull off jiu-jitsu of any sort, right? He's a black belt under Damian Maia.
Yeah.
It's almost a spit in the face of Damian Maia to give this guy a black belt because he just doesn't use it correctly at all. Like in his regional fights when he's
Mm-hmm.
fighting complete bums, he's having so much trouble trying to like advance position, nail submissions of any sorts. He's training at King's MMA now, which is just a tie with Shogun because of Rafael Cordero. So I think a lot of people are looking into that as well too. I don't think that you should put too much stock into it just because a guy's going over there. Again, he's 35. How much more is he going to add to his arsenal, right? So I think the
Nothing.
another like if we want to get a little bit technical about it too, we're talking about opposite stances here. We're talking about a southpaw and Mike Rodriguez with nasty Muay Thai, and then you're talking about a jiu-jitsu guy who fights an orthodox who just does not look comfortable on the feet at all. So I think we'll see Rodriguez go out there and just chew his body up with some leg kicks, chew his legs up. He says he wants to be a little bit careful when he's throwing his leg kicks out there, which I kind of understand because you don't want to leave yourself susceptible to being taken down. But I think he'll just chew him up here. I just don't see how Marquez deals with the striking of him. We did see Marquez go out there and go to a decision against Myron Dennis, who used to be on the Ultimate Fighter, also a kickboxer himself too. But the issue with Dennis was it just didn't seem like he was putting much of his like pop into his shots. He was just pitter pattering him at that time. Whereas Rodriguez, we know he throws to end fights, so I think he's going to end this fight. I think it's going to be relatively short as well too. And lastly, I think people are going to dig a little bit too much into the fact that Rodriguez got submitted by Ed Herman last time around. He finished him twice. He finished him twice. One that inadvertent nut shot, which was not a nut shot; it was a phantom nut shot. So he should have gotten
Knocked him out with a stomach shot, and the ref stopped it. Yeah.
Exactly.
That was greasy.
And then in the third round, gets him down and starts raining down elbows. Almost any other ref probably would have stopped that fight. So he blew out his gas tank twice trying to finish this guy, and he successfully did, at least in the majority of people's books. And then he goes out there and gets Kimura after he's completely gassed. I think the first time he puts this Marquez guy out is going to be the only time because he's going to put him out for sure. So I got Rodriguez.
So
here.
just one knockout.
One knockout. He's just going to get him out there once.
That's it.
And I'm totally fine with the chalk here. If you want to get a little bit pretty with it, you can take him inside the distance. You can take him by KO. But this is not reaching the judges' scorecards. I like Rodriguez here, and I think he wipes them out with him as well.
Well, as far as striking goes, this isn't even comparable. I think it's ridiculous. Rodriguez has a 5-inch reach advantage, which, I mean, Marquez actually has a pretty decent reach, and he's 6'6". So it's not going to be too often he's outreached like this. Taking a look at Rodriguez's strikes landed per minute at 5.19 against far better competition. That's a lot better than Danilo Marquez did with his 1 landed per minute. You're going to land 5 punches around? That's not enough. Rodriguez is going to land combos that, have more punches in it than a round for this guy. So I'm with you. I don't know why I haven't bet it yet. I've been thinking about it. It's such great parlay material, isn't it? It's super good parlay material. Here's the thing. I actually had Ed Herman in that fight. I thought there was good value on the veteran.
Oh, you got
nice dog odds. Yeah. You know how often I don't get lucky? It is disgusting how many times I think I win the fight and get screwed by the judges in comparison. So that was one where I did a round of applause, and I'll take it for sure. But yeah, I mean, he worked over Ed Herman. He should have no issue working this guy over at all. He's going to land more.
One thing I want to add to this as well is I'm seeing a narrative out there that people are saying that Mike Rodriguez isn't trustworthy. Now let's just go over his last 3 losses quick. The Ed Herman fight, again, won that fight twice, and then Gaston got submitted. The Da Un Jung fight, you're talking about 2 big heavyweights that are not heavyweights, light heavyweights that throw power. So obviously Da Un Jung is live in that fight to knock him out. And then the John Allen fight, we saw him go out there and get completely out MMA'd in that fight. Danilo Marquez is a jiu-jitsu guy. He doesn't know how to mix in striking with grappling and takedowns and all that stuff. John Allen much better than him in that realm. So in my opinion, this is a walk in the park for Rodriguez.
Okay, yeah, and Allen as well got popped for steroids after that fight. Now it's a no contest in the books. He was absolutely on the juice, pretty unfair. I mean, it's not that easy when you're off the juice. So Rodriguez probably fares a lot better in that fight. You're right. But yeah, totally mixed in the takedowns, grinded him hard, getting knocked out by Jung. So what? And that loss to Herman's bullshit. Slow Mike Rodriguez is pretty good, man. I got to say, and I will be looking at maybe parlay piecing that guy up. That seems like a really good spot. This is a fight I don't like at all. Valiev and Martin Day. I don't even really know what to say. I mean, it's just another one I'm not interested at all. What do we got for a line right now? -354. It's probably about right. How do you feel about that line? It just seems just like an easy pass for me.
I think it's the second safest spot on the card behind Cody Stamann. And
Okay.
even if you want to throw Mike Rodriguez in there, I think those three guys are probably a shoe in terms of guys that will probably get their hand raised that night. Again, yeah, the line is a little bit wide. I get that, especially with him coming off a knockout loss. But that was almost another one where like he, goes out there, almost finished Trevin Jones in that first round, gasses himself out trying to get the finish, and that's very uncharacteristic of Valiv as well too. If you watch his regional tape, his PFL tape, he mixes takedowns pretty well. He showcases an all-around MMA game, but he just went for the kill a little bit too hard against Trevin Jones, and then his cardio and his gas tank paid for it. And we saw Trevin Jones go out there and knock him out in that second round. Martin Day, on the other hand, just decent technical striker, but just makes these mistakes that it's hard to go out there and try to put money on this guy, even at big dog odds, right? Like his last fight against Davy Grant,
Yeah.
or sorry, 2 fights ago against Davy Grant, literally getting hit with the same combination for 13 minutes. And then finally, that 13th minute or 14th combination puts him out. He does nothing the entire fight to try to address it, and eventually pays for it. And then in the Anderson Dos Santos fight, poor fight IQ, goes out there, gets taken down, gets right back to his feet and tries this huge slam, leaving his neck out on a silver platter for a BJJ black belt. And we see Anderson Dos Santos go out there and snatch up his neck. Yeah, Day's doing a favor here for the UFC. He could easily have been caught after that Dos Santos fight. Doing a favor here for the UFC, stepping in on short notice. More than likely will lose this fight, but I think he at least buys himself a 5th fight in the UFC, and that will probably be his make or break fight. But yeah, I think Valiv has him covered everywhere, like striking, grappling, everywhere. I think that Timur Valiv absolutely beats this guy. I think people might read into the Jones fight a little bit too much for Valiv, but I think he's a solid parlay piece here. The spot that I'm looking at is Cody Stamann and Valiv. I think if you can get that around like minus 150 around that range, I think you're getting some solid value on that type of parlay, considering that these guys should just run through their opponents. But yeah, I think Stamann, Valiv, 1 and 2, safest spots in terms of parlay pieces, and then I'll throw Mike Rodriguez in there third. The only reason I throw Rodriguez in third is because, again, we're dealing with big heavyweight guys or light heavyweight guys, the variance and just way more up there. But with these lighter weight class guys, I think that we'll see them just handily beat these guys. So yeah, I like Valiv. I don't mind the chalky line. Solid parlay piece, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Valiv's just a little bit better everywhere. I'm concerned about his cardio, but maybe I should get over that. That could be a one-time issue. Martin Day probably has nothing for him. So let's scroll down a couple here since we're running out of time. I would like to talk Meatball Molly McCann versus Lara. This line surprises me a little, and so does the line movement. So how about, again, you kick this off, and then I'm going to counter.
All right, so I'm guessing just off that tee up, I know who you're on, but I like me some Laura Procopio here. I think that she has some solid value as a dog. I took a shot on her already at plus 140. Thought the line would get better, but the more that I'm reaching out there and talking to some of my buddies, they seem to see what I'm seeing as well too with Procopio. Like I don't know what this notion of Molly McCann is that she's like a solid wrestler just because she went out there and out wrestled the girl in Diana Belbita who couldn't wrestle for her life. Not to mention she goes out there in her next fight, takes down a fighter that she clearly has a striking advantage over and gets armbarred. So let's just talk about her poor fight IQ to begin with. But then Molly McCann, next fight, goes out there and she comes in as a favorite against Tyler Santos, who's just looked absolutely amazing. She's looked great in all of her fights except her UFC debut that a lot of people put way too much stock in, where she got out grappled by Mara Romero Barella. And then I got solid odds on Tyler Santos there against Molly McCann. She goes out there and puts on an ass whooping on Molly McCann. Now, I'm not expecting Molly to she does have a slight striking advantage here over Lara, but a couple things that we need to take into consideration for Lara is she's finally fighting at the weight class she's supposed to. In her UFC debut, she fought at 135 pounds. Now she's at 125. She's 25 years old. She's making improvements on a fight-to-fight basis. She's training with Novo União, whereas Jose Aldo and Andre Pederneiras and those guys come out from. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well, too. And I think that's the main part that we have to focus on here is I've seen her on the regional scene complete solid takedowns, and people will be really put off with her takedown ability if you just watch the Carol Hossa fight. Carol Hossa did a great job of keeping her on the outside and battering her. I think she landed 170 plus strikes on her. Procopio herself landed about 160 strikes as well too. So you can put that caveat in there. She did some damage on Hossa as well. But Procopio getting this fight to the ground. I've seen Molly McCann getting taken down by body lock takedown, trip takedowns, exactly what Procopio does on her regional scene. Now that we have her at her weight class, I think we'll see her complete these takedowns with relative ease and possibly pull off a submission. So the spot that I'm looking at is Procopio via submission. I think it's in the plus 600 or plus 900 range, but that's the spot that I like the most here. You're already getting good value at dog money. I think this is a 50-50 fight. Molly McCann's no crazy striker. I think that Carol Hossa is a much better striker who could do much more damage on Procopio than what Molly McCann will bring to the table. And I just don't see McCann keeping this on the feet long enough to chalk up minutes on the rounds and try to win a judge's decision here. I think we'll see Procopio control her enough, get her to the ground, and possibly pull off a submission. Even if she doesn't get the submission, she should be able to get enough control time to win this fight via decision as well too. But I love the dog here. I got a solid chunk of change on Procopio here.
Okay, yeah. See, I completely disagree. I think Molly is being undervalued. Molly McCann has good striking defense. She's fought a much better strength of schedule. I also don't think Rosa is very good. A lot of people think she is. She's a volume striker, but she's so hittable, and so is Procopio. Carol was teeing off on her, but yeah, the strike count might have been close, but the damage by Carol Rosa was like significantly more, in my opinion. It seemed like Lara was way too comfortable taking one to give one, but every shot she gave was nowhere near what she took. And I think Molly's got good head movement. She has a 66% striking defense. Like I said, that's against much better competition, even though it's not like super good competition. I mean, it is a one-fight sample we're looking at for Lara, but still, I think if she wants to trade with Molly like that, she's going to miss a couple, and some combos are going to get landed on her. I think Molly hits a lot harder than Carol Rosa. She doesn't throw as much, but she hits harder. She has better defense. I think she finds a way to get up on the scorecards. She really needs to work on her takedown defense, though. It is pathetic. It's 33%. That's horrible. And mind you, the girls she has been fighting are decent wrestlers, but still 33% is not enough to get it done usually. So I'll give it to you. If Lara can take this to the ground, she's got a good shot. But on the feet, I honestly think she's like in way over her head. That's just how I feel about it. I like Molly McCann at this line. Very, very tempted. Very tempted to take Molly. So that's definitely one where we are very opposite. Not too many like that. And I guess let's wrap this up with Zalal and Sungwoo Choi. I think this will be a great fight. And again, I believe we disagree on this one. So I'm going to make a case for Sungwoo Choi. You like Zalal, right? Okay, let's talk Sungwoo Choi here. Okay, this guy has fought way better competition. Way better. His UFC debut, not many guys are winning that. Never mind your debut. I personally thought he had a pretty decent account of himself for what he was thrown into. Next up, Gavin Tucker. I thought Choi beat the crap out of Tucker, just got caught. That kind of sucks. And then after that, Mokhtarian, who doesn't beat up Mokhtarian, but he really worked him. Like, he worked him. Now we look at Yusuf Zalal. He's only 24, maybe even just turned 25. No, I think he's still 24 years old. Very young, but I'm not impressed with his strength of schedule. And at times I did think Jordan Griffin had the better of him in that fight. Peter Barrett kind of sucks. He got absolutely walked down and I think worked over by Topuria, and that's okay. It was a debuting fighter. You expect a little more out of Zalal, maybe there. I didn't. I actually liked Topuria. And he got to beat Austin Lingo. I think that was Lingo's debut on short notice. This schedule is complete junk compared to Sungwoo Choi. And Sungwoo Choi is the bigger man. He hits harder. He's physically just larger and stronger. I think he has sharper striking. I like everything about Sungwoo Choi in this fight, and I don't understand the plus 200 price tag. I do understand Zalal's good foot movement. He moves around on the outside nice. But if we're talking skill for skill, I just don't get it. I think Choi is going to land more and heavier. And, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. The strength of schedule is what makes these odds, or the striking stats so skewed, in my opinion anyway. So we have seen Zalal with good striking defense at 65%. That's very good. But is he going to be able to do that when Choi's walking him down? I doubt it. I doubt it. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's Choi or pass by a mile. I think there's good value on Choi here. So why don't you tell me why I'm sleeping here on Zalal?
I don't think you're necessarily sleeping on Zalal. I think you're absolutely bang on in terms of it's a dog or pass situation. The line is a little bit too wide
Okay.
for my liking. I do think that Zalal is the better fighter, and the strength of schedule. I think that's a good point that you bring up, but that's also something that these guys don't really have much control over either, right? Like if Zalal was going in there and fighting the guys that we're seeing Choi fight, maybe we see him get his hand raised in those fights. The Topuria fights, man, like I've been following Topuria for a couple years now. That kid is a star waiting to burst, and he's just, I think that guy legit has top five potential. So a loss to Poirier at this point in Zalal's career, I'm not looking too hard into that one. But yeah, Sungwoo Choi got fed wolves in his UFC first two fights. We're talking about Movsar Evloev, who is probably one of my favorite fighters in the UFC right now, and then his next fight against Gavin Tucker, who I believe, fellow Canadian, is doing very, very well for himself as well too, right? But yeah, Choi has great skills, man. He's a national champion in Muay Thai. He's big for the division, like you're saying. That's a solid point there. With Zalal, man, like I just feel like he has a better overall game in terms of being able to take the fight to the ground. The striking advantage will definitely be in Choi's corner, but like when you're having to fend off takedowns or have the worry of being taken down, I think that might put him off his game a little bit. I'm interested to see how the size difference affects Zalal's ability to get this fight to the ground, because that could definitely have something to do with it. But I feel like he's well trained over there at Team Elevation, I believe, or sorry, Factory X that he's currently at with Mark Montoya and those guys. Last year we saw him fight 4 times in the UFC. He made his UFC debut against Austin Lingo, like you're saying, and that was a fight that was put together on short notice for both guys because they're just trying to fill out that card. I think they got announced like the week or 2 weeks before the fight, so he comes into that fight as a plus 160 dog. I think he was, springs the upset, and a lot of people start to jump on his train. He starts to come in as huge favorites over Peter Barrett and the fight before that as well too, right? Against Jordan Griffin, he was a solid favorite in that fight. I think the fight just comes down to how the grappling exchanges and clinch positions go. You might have to give a slight advantage to Choi in the clinch positions, just given his Muay Thai background.
I do.
But then once you start mixing in takedowns, then things get a little bit interesting, right? So how is Zalal going to fare on top of this guy? Is he going to be able to get him down at minus 240, minus 220? I'm not willing to part ways with my money to find out that. And with Choi, I think he has a little bit to give in the UFC, and this could be a fight where he springs the upset, but I'm just not interested in parting ways with my money with this guy either. It's just his takedown defense that's a bit of an issue for me. Obviously, you're going to get taken down by a guy like Movsar Evloev. That's without a doubt.
Yeah.
Now, Zalal, obviously not a background in wrestling, but still has shown that he can mix up the game pretty well if he needs to. And that's where the I hit a roadblock with wanting to bet a guy like Choi. This is a tough card. Overall, it's a very tough card to find solid value on money lines. So I wouldn't mind anybody taking a shot on Choi here, like you're saying. Plus 200 is a sexy line for sure. But personally, I just can't seem to get over that hump of his takedown defense. So yeah, I like Zalal. I think he wins by decision, but I'm not mad at anybody taking a shot on Choi here.
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't mind Choi's takedown defense. I know he's given up quite a few, but those are good wrestlers. And I didn't think that Zalal looked that great against any of these wins. They were all pretty close until they weren't. I just don't see it. I think Choi can stuff a couple. I think he can beat him up in the clinch. I think he can control the cage. Choi likes to pressure, and Zalal likes to dance around on the outside. And I totally suspect Zalal's back will be up against the cage enough. He's going to get hit hard. This is a huge step up for him, and I don't understand why he's such a big favorite. I'll probably find out on Saturday night. So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining me, Manpreet. And I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Lion Sniper Fight Night. We will be back every week that there is a fight night to be talking about. So I believe that's 11 out of the next 12 weeks. Should be good.